Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the reinforced glass of the observation deck, watching the massive shadow descend through Earth's atmosphere. The ship was unlike anything humanity had ever conceived, a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light around itself, creating ripples in the sky like heat waves on a summer day. "Contact established," announced Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communications array. They're speaking in mathematical sequences. Pure mathematics. Elena's heart raced. After 30 years of searching for extraterrestrial life, first contact was happening during her watch at the International Space Observatory. But something felt wrong. The aliens hadn't responded to any of their greetings, their carefully crafted messages of peace, or even their basic mathematical concepts. Instead, they had simply transmitted coordinates that pointed to a location in the Sahara Desert. The crystalline vessel touched down in the middle of nowhere, sending shock waves through the sand that registered on seismographs across 3 continents. Within hours, a hastily assembled international team had established a perimeter around the landing site. Elena found herself on the first transport helicopter, clutching her xenolinguistics equipment and trying to calm her nerves. As they approached the site, she could see the ship more clearly. It wasn't just crystalline, it was alive. The surface pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that flowed like veins carrying light instead of blood. But what struck her most was how it seemed to scan the surrounding desert, as if searching for something. The aliens emerged 3 hours after landing. They were tall, perhaps 8 feet in height, with elongated limbs that moved with fluid grace. Their skin appeared to be the same living crystal as their ship, translucent and shimmering. Most remarkably, they showed no interest in the human delegation that had gathered. They walked past the assembled scientists, military personnel, and diplomats, as if they were invisible. Elena watched, fascinated and slightly insulted, as the beings spread out across the desert in a methodical search pattern. They carried devices that hummed with energy, sweeping them back and forth over the sand like metal detectors on a beach. "They're looking for something," she whispered to Dr. Chen, the team's archaeologist. "Something they left here." Dr. Chen nodded grimly. But 30,000 years ago, this region was. He paused, consulting his tablet. According to geological surveys, this area was lush grassland during the last interglacial period. Whatever they're looking for has been buried under millennia of climate change. The search continued for days. The aliens worked with tireless efficiency, their crystalline bodies seemingly immune to the desert heat. Elena attempted communication dozens of times, using everything from radio waves to light patterns to mathematical proofs. The beings acknowledged her presence with what might have been polite recognition, a brief flash of colors across their skin, but otherwise ignored her completely. On the 4th day, they found it. The ground erupted in a controlled explosion of sand and rock as something massive rose from beneath the desert floor. Elena stumbled backward, shielding her eyes from the cascade of debris. When the dust settled, she found herself staring at what could only be described as a mirror image of the ship that had landed days earlier. But this vessel was different. Ancient. Its crystalline surface was clouded and cracked, its bioluminescent patterns flickering weakly like a dying heartbeat. 30,000 years of burial had not been kind to it. The aliens rushed to their lost ship with something Elena recognized as emotion relief, joy, perhaps even grief. They swarmed over its surface, their hands glowing as they made contact with the ancient crystal. Slowly, the buried ship began to respond. Its patterns brightened, its surface cleared, and Elena realized she was witnessing a reunion between living beings and their vessel. As the ancient ship's systems came online, Elena's equipment registered something extraordinary. The mathematical sequences being transmitted between the 2 ships weren't just communication, they were memory transfers. The lost ship was downloading 30,000 years of stored data, while the rescue ship was uploading contemporary information. Dr. Vasquez, Lieutenant Rodriguez called out urgently. "You need to see this." Elena hurried to the communications station, where Rodriguez was pointing at his screen with trembling fingers. The mathematical sequences were now accompanied by images, holographic projections, being shared between the ships. And in those images, Elena saw Earth as it had been 30,000 years ago. But they weren't alone in those ancient landscapes. Primitive humans wandered through the scenes, but they weren't the hunter-gatherers of archaeological record. These early humans were using tools of impossible sophistication, tools that glowed with the same bioluminescent patterns as the alien ships. "They were here before," Elena breathed. "They didn't just visit Earth, they lived here, alongside our ancestors." The implications hit her like a physical blow. The rapid development of human civilization, the sudden leap from stone tools to agriculture, to technology. What if it hadn't been natural evolution? What if humanity had been guided, taught, uplifted by these crystalline beings? As if responding to her thoughts, the nearest alien turned toward her. For the first time, it approached the human delegation intentionally. When it reached Elena, it extended one translucent hand and touched her forehead. Images flooded her mind, not memories, but knowledge. She saw the truth of humanity's past, the symbiotic relationship between her species and these visitors from the stars. She understood why they had left, why they had returned, and why their lost ship was so important. The vessel contained the complete genetic and cultural record of early human-alien cooperation. It was a library, a backup of everything they had built together before some catastrophe had forced the aliens to flee, leaving their ship behind and humanity to develop alone. When the contact ended, Elena found tears streaming down her face. The alien's skin patterns shifted to what she somehow knew was gratitude before it turned away to rejoin its kind. Within hours, both ships had lifted off, disappearing into the cosmos as suddenly as they had arrived. But they left behind something precious, the knowledge that humanity had never been alone, and that somewhere among the stars, their ancient teachers remembered them. Elena stood in the empty desert, watching the last traces of the ships vanish into the afternoon sky, knowing that everything about human history would need to be rewritten. The aliens had retrieved their lost ship, but in doing so, they had given humanity something far more valuable: the truth about their shared past and the promise of a shared future.